Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Robertson, president and founder of the Omaha Linux User Group. A little bit of background on myself and three other people, including Adam Hayter, which obviously isn't here today, started Omaha Linux User Group in the front room of a person's house in 1998. I would tell you that off and on over those years, I've played different roles in the user group. Lately, I've kind of handed a lot. Everybody's handing off to John, and we're very appreciative to all of his years of service. So, round of applause for John Larson.
I was in elementary school in 1998.
1998, I was in Highland Colonels, buddy. Highland Colonels, that was a new thing around the block.
In short, now OLUG was also a mirror for the Samba project.
So that's really how I got involved in Linux. Was I did a little bit of coding for Samba, however you want to say it. I did some more printing, principal or management and file sharing, but that's this much of what Samba is today. Right? So that's how I got involved in Linux and started to kind of spread the word. Yep, that's exactly how it started. I had a mirror in a ISP down in Bellevue. It was called TopNet.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I worked on and off as a sysadmin for Linux at that location. So being a sysadmin, you get to put boxes and stuff where nobody knows where they're at. So I did a little box and did a sand mirror and started a OLUG. So last time I presented at OLUG was in 2011 on IPv6. Welcome you back.
You're due.
I'm way overdue. I guess maybe just to start out, just so I kind of understand, at least from a who's here perspective, does everybody understand, or what is the level of depth from a knowledge perspective on LVM in the room? Is it you have no idea what it is?
I know it is a thing that I don't use.
Okay.
I'm more of a casual.
So do you want us to raise our hands when you ask the question?
Yeah, let's do that. So if we say, have you used LVM before? You raise your hand. Okay. Have you ever partitioned a disk before?
I think I've tried.
Okay. So that gives me at least something to work off of. A lot of equations will be this is what it is in LVM versus this is what it is in a regular partition type of disk layout scenario. So if you don't know, LVM stands for Logical Volume Manager. I did put, it's actually LVM2 if you want to be correct about the Linux kernel version. But, why version 2? It's just, it's LVM from my perspective. Okay.
Can I ask you a historical part of LVM?
Sure.
Am I correct in saying that IBM kind of pushed some of this in the early days?
I don't know that level of detail.
Okay.
They had their own volume management system.
Yeah.
And some parts that were pulled over, like some of the internals were brought over too. So it's emerging that.
That's what I thought, because I remember there was some red books about it back in the,
Yeah, EVMS.
Okay.
They contribute parts for sure.
At the end of the day, I think even though IBM might have brought over some code, just about any relatively
or developers.
More developer enterprise Unix had some type of logical volume management. Solaris had it forever. SGI had it obviously. But obviously, Linux is open source, so they came on over with those acquisitions. How it got there, I'm not 100% sure. Any other basic questions like that? That will stump me before we get started. So a quick agenda of at least what I wanted to talk about. Obviously, stop me throughout this whole thing and ask questions. I like to be interactive. I don't want to just sit here and read the presentation to you. I don't have a lot of verbiage up there, so it's going to be a lot of talking. That's the style that I like to do meetings with. A lot of feedback is appreciated. So from a quick overview, we're going to talk about some LVM basic building blocks. what they are, some common administration items, and then some advanced topics. And I literally left the advanced topic slide wide open because I didn't really want to pick something and focus on it. So if we get to the advanced topic and I didn't cover it already, let's dig into it because there's more than myself that knows a lot about LVM in this room. So basically, building blocks for logical volumes. There's three. There's a physical volume, a volume group, and a logical volume. Think of a physical volume is the same from a hard drive perspective. Is the actual physical drive, right? Meaning it's a bare drive. There's nothing on it. There's no partition table. There's nothing. They do not necessarily need to be on a partition table. For the longest time, we've seen how-tos of forcing you to create partition tables and actually assigning the LVM type to the partition table, but it's not a requirement. This is important data. Obviously, make sure it's on a RAID device. There's a lot of different ways you can accomplish this. You can do it not only from a hardware RAID perspective, you can also place LVM on top of software RAID. So it actually gives you some pretty complex scenarios where you have, say, two drives that are set up in a Linux RAID 1 volume, and then you have that LVM on top of that. So you have a lot of abstraction throughout the whole thing, and all the redundancy is completely done in software rather than hardware.
So if you were to use the whole, and I'm not sure if you know the answer about that, when you actually use the whole physical disk, there's some kind of UUID that's being assigned to that volume identifier?
No. That's the interesting part. You do a BOK ID, you're not going to get a UUID.
Okay.
If you do a FDisk minus L on it, you're not going to get
see any of it.
You're not going to see it at all.
That's one way to hide stuff.
So how did we, to further that question, how does LVM know it's part of the physical disk? It actually reads the MDR.
Okay.
So if you do use an entire disk, it'll read the MDR from a PV or physical volume perspective to find out if it's a part of that volume.
Okay.
Volume groups. That's how you tie together multiple physical volumes. So for example, if I have two separate hard drives or three separate hard drives, well, I create my physical volumes on three separate drives, and then I create my volume group to group all three of those together into a single logical unit. Once you put them together, then you can actually build what's called a logical volume on top of that. And the equation from a logical volume perspective would be like a partition on a regular disk. So we have a lot of abstraction there. So we have a physical portion, the physical media, and then we place that physical media into a group, and then we place a logical volume on top of the volume group. It's synonymous with the partition is logical volume is. This is where your file system lives. That's how you actually create a file system. And then make sure your file system has expandability support, preferably online. And the reason I call that out is you want to make sure that the file system is not, say, like an ext3. And why I say that is you can't expand it online. You have to take it offline to expand it. Can you expand ext3? Absolutely. Can you do it online? No. Yeah. So, for example, I prefer, and it's just because I've used it for forever. I originally started with Riser FS. Okay, this was back in the day, and throughout the years, with all the any of the various Riser issues. Long story short, the main developer is in jail. So I converted over to XFS. XFS is a file system from SGI, which is great for lots of little files and large volumes. It grows online very simply with GrowFS. And from a performance standpoint, it's great for things like VMware data stores that are mounted via NFS, or volumes that are mounted via NFS for other virtualization platforms. It handles VMDKs and other virtual devices like that very well.
So a lot of, all the new Korean stuff that I built, it's all XFS.
Perfect.
So the question, do you actually use XFS like in your laptop and stuff as well? Because XFS back in the day has a reputation of when it doesn't get shut down nicely, it says never mind about that data.
Great point. So here's my view of the world. On a laptop or a desktop that has heavy use like that, from a user interface perspective, I leave everything ext4. Everything ext4. The only places I use LVM or XFS would be for volumes that have highly used data, right, that are going to serve other purposes. But for like a desktop or a laptop, I always stick with ext4.
Generally, the installer will do that for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I'll give you some other kind of use cases that I use XFS for. I still use today MythTV as my PVR solution. Now, all of my recording and my media data files are actually on an XFS file system. Why? Because I can grow and shrink them very quick. So those are the three basic building blocks. I tried to find a couple of good pictures that I could put in here, but I couldn't find any. So I figured I would just, when the time comes, it might be a good idea to show as a graphic outside. And hopefully I can find this quick.
Myth TV was my first OLUG presentation in
Was it really?
2003.
Is it still on last month?
Hmm?
Is it on last month?
Say it again?
Is it on last month?
No,
No. Lost.
yeah. I don't think it might be in the partition. Yeah.
No, a little wisp of beer.
Yeah.
You know, you probably could also use G part purchase. Yeah.
Here's one.
I'll have to drop out the presentation.
We did.
Oh, well, maybe not. All right.
Really can't see it.
Control plus. I guess it won't make the picture any bigger, but there you go. Sweet.
So here's kind of a scenario between a partition setup versus LVM. You have hard drives, and on top of those hard drives, you have partitions. In a LVM scenario, this person actually shows that you partition the SDD, which is the second SCSI disk in the system, as two separate partitions. You didn't necessarily need to do this, right? You can just have an entire SDD. And then here's SDC, separate disk. So these are physical volumes, and the volume group actually spans all of these physical volumes. And then the logical volume is creating two separate logical volumes and mounted them in different places. This guy actually uses XFS. So he's mounted this volume group or this logical volume under home, this logical volume under dad. Any questions?
That's why I think it's a long time that you look at the XFS.
Yes! I wanted to find a picture specific to XFS. You're right.
That was the cookies.
Yes. Cookies. You found it. All right. Moving right along. Some common administration items. Extending a volume group. It's pretty simple. It's as simple as adding the hard drive or the physical media that you want to extend to and running two commands. One is to create the physical volume, And the next is to actually extend the volume group that you want to extend. So for example, I have, let's say I have 2 drives in my system. They happen to be SDA1 and SDA2, or SDA and SDB. So I take my machine down, I add another disk, it shows up as SDC. So, right, so now I have 3. So how I would add that to the group would be pv create dev SDC. It'll create the physical volume. And once the physical volume is created, I can use VG extend. And the commands are, you can Google them, but it's VG extend, volume group name, and then the physical volume. So that will extend that volume group by that additional drive that you've created. Now, you can also extend the logical volume on top of that volume group by using the LD extend command. It's very similar to the VG extend. It's LB extend minus L plus how big do you want to make it, and then the file system.
Is it capital?
The mount point. What's that?
Is it capital?
Capital L, yes.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, once you resize the volume, you have to resize the file system to use that extra volume, which is why I say it's very important to make sure that you use a file system that's growable or expandable. In XFS, it's literally growfs space mount point. And just use the rest of the space.
You certainly have a backup before you did it.
Why?
Never had issues.
Never had issues. That's a great point, and you know, it's a great
There are
point to
times
be
when
made.
you cannot have the time to do it when you're under pressure.
That's right, which is 99%
Yeah.
of the time that I'm under when I need to grow a file system. I just got to do it and do it now. Has anybody, outside of like losing power or some other physical catastrophe, has anybody grown a file system and actually corrupted it? I have.
I haven't.
Not to say it doesn't happen,
Yeah.
not yet. Where's the wood?
One thing just occurred to me about this, the layout. We're always talking about adding physical disks to create the larger physical volumes, the volume groups. It's not recommended for USB attached devices
Absolutely not. I would never do any of this on a USB.
because those can change their position.
That's right. That's right.
Mhm.
That's right.
Nope. We just got.
To that point, it's exactly why majority of my systems that I manage, I've converted everything to include like the FS tab or the file system tab to use block BLK IDs, right? The actual block IDs of the device rather than where I think it should be. If you type the command BLK ID, this is when it's shown to you. On any Linux system, if you just type BLK ID,
Oops.
I'm not root.
Maybe I make you root.
What the what? Make me root. So on any Linux, if you type BLK ID, it will give you the block ID, UUID, or universal identifier for every block device in the system. You see how it says dev SDA UID is this. So in the FS tab, I actually reference this. Because no matter where you plug the block in this drive into that system, whether it's the first drive bay or the 50th drive bay, that block and this UID follows the drive.
I think it's also the kernel.
Usually
Usually it's part of past stuff.
it's at least part of Grub.
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of curious to find out if this system, some distributions do that and some don't, like this one does. Right, so at least for the boot, it gives the UID of this guy, and not that boot. I don't know how that's written. Do you know how that's referenced with the door root? mapper.
Yeah, it's the volume group. So do a VG,
Oh, is it?
VG display and
There you go. Well, that is the actual logical volume.
so it's making the names as part of
Gotcha.
the,
So if I do an LV display, it'll show me all of the logical volumes.
so it's an amalgamation of the VG name and the LV name.
So mapper is creating that Fedora group under mapper. So this guy actually has logical volumes. Good job bringing the right systems.
Oh, thank you. 2015, time for a reload sometime.
There you go. So here's all the.
That's when I got the SSD.
Some other neat commands is VG display. It will show you the volume groups that you have, what the VG name is. This one happens to be Fedora. So the LV display shows the logical volumes on this volume group. You can also search for all physical volumes using PV display. See that there's one physical volume in that volume group. SDA2.
There's no free physical extents. That PE is what physical extents, isn't it?
Exactly.
You know, what we usually do is always leave a reserve couple gig to throw some volume for like 10.
Exactly. Great point. So like this VG size is the actual size of the entire volume group. And free PE size is 0. So all of the PE, which stands for physical extent, is used. If you are able to resize, that physical extent size would be a positive number. Any questions on common administration tax? I would expect somebody to ask me, how do you shrink stuff?
I would shrink stuff.
LV extend.
Why would you shrink stuff? How would you
You
shrink?
don't. That's what I grew up in this profession. You don't.
As long as you can remove enough data to have it free.
Here's what I would never try to online shrink shit.
No, not online.
I would back it up, delete it, and restore it.
Okay.
That's what I would do. Just from I want to make sure it worked perspective.
Which is why we give it the space that we know we need, and we always reserve multiple gigs, so we have to put a volume that seems to go on.
Yeah. You always want to leave, unlike some installers like the one that installed Fedora on this, you always want to leave at least 20 gigs free. You never know when you run that file system completely out and you just need another gig to recover it for whatever reason.
And you can run into some weird stuff though with file system resizing.
Oh, speaking of file
If-
system filling up, a few months back, I had an error file that was 500 gigabytes big
Okay.
on an 800 gig hard drive.
Did you delete it?
Yeah, I deleted it and I made sure it wouldn't happen again. That was a few distributions ago. But I was like tearing my hair out trying to figure out why I was getting so many errors. And eventually I figured out after looking through the files, why is there so much space taken up by this one folder?
There you go.
Why
So
is
it's
there
always in
500
bars
gigabyte
somewhere.
text file?
It's always in bar somewhere. Just delete bar. No, don't delete bar.
That'd be like deleting 632 on Windows.
Yeah. Delete the SXS directory. There you go. Okay. Moving right along. I think that's pretty much it. Advanced topics. Here's what I started out to do. I started to talk a little bit about snapshots.
It can be a little squirrely.
It gets a little squirrely. Snapshots get squirrely. I used to use logical volume snapshots to quiesce and back up a very large flat file web server farm that John might be familiar with that goes by the name of curlink.com. At one point, I'm sure it's all been fixed. Their Curlink's internals were, all the HTML were literally HTML sitting on hard drive. And we're talking hundreds and hundreds of gigs of text.
Millions of files.
Millions and millions of files. And hundreds, if not 150, 200 applications that were writing them or deleting them or modifying them at the same time. So the only way to back up that dang thing was to what's called quiesce the file system to a state that's not going to change so I can back up the snapshot. The challenge with doing it that way, it never really did work fully correctly, because what happens
It's just way too much change.
when you create a snapshot, you have to give the snapshot enough size to be able to cover the changes you expect from when you created the snapshot to when you're going to delete the snapshot. So if I had to back up, let's say, a terabyte of millions of files using tar or whatever, it's going to take, let's say, 8 hours. Now, if you still have these background processes writing and modifying and doing stuff in the background, and even if it's just a little bit of data modifications, your snapshot size needs to mirror that data change for it to be effective. So, long story short, from that perspective, that's where I saw snapshotting being the best way to back those up. It worked at the beginning. It didn't work again because it got to a point where it just modified, the file system modified too much during the window. At that
Most
point,
of that is.
good.
We did a check out of the main tree today. It was like 157 meg.
Wow.
That's just the PHP code. Yeah. Now there's still hundreds of gigs of files of the old crap right around.
Just tell me that thing that starts with L is gone. Is all I want
I wish.
to hear. Wrong. No.
There's one component that still uses it, unfortunately. And now JD's gone. There's nobody who knows how to.
So that was my only advanced topic I want to talk about was snapshots. I don't know if anybody had any questions specific to snapshots.
Oh, no.
No, okay. You got a different advanced topic question?
I got a 12-part question.
You got a 12-part question? All right. What's my time frame?
Hello?
Is it 2 days?
My name is John.
I was gonna say, I don't think I've ever done snapshots with the XT4. Is it better snapshots or?
It really doesn't matter about the file system, right? Because the snapshot is of the logical volume, right? It's actually a snapshot in the logical volume. So whatever file system's sitting on top, it quiesces every read and write in the snapshot.
I could have, I just got a couple. So, do you know what a hybrid drive is in the Macintosh?
Hybrid drive and
Hybrid drive in the Macintosh. It's a combination of an SSD and a regular drive.
right.
LVM provides the capability to create that type of functionality inside it by adding a smaller SSD drive to a larger volume size, and it'll actually close the partition correctly. Have you had any luck with that? So I've done it successfully in the past, but I've never gotten really the performance I expected out of it.
I have not messed with that too much, but it's also, speaking of hybrid drives and how they work, there are a few SANs. One comes to mind is Celeron. It's called Flash FS. Basically, what happens is the most accessed data is stored on SSD, and the unaccessed data is stored on SATA or other SAS devices. So, and a hybrid drive scenario is the same way. How it uses its algorithm to figure out what's used, it being used frequently versus not used.
Because I added it, did some basic benchmark, I didn't get the results on months ago. I marked it valid, drained the data off, and pulled off this SSD off the system. I didn't see the performance of it.
Yeah. Well, I guess I would be curious how you tried to benchmark that. Meaning, how did you repeatedly access
I ran
certain?
a workload system, that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
I didn't run like
Like
Bonnie or anything like that.
Yeah, I was about that. So it's like Bonnie, you can do some of that level of benchmarking. I wonder if that would, you'd see a different performance stack.
I was basically on real use of that, obviously my part is great, but needed to.
That's advanced. So that functionality is built into LVM two now?
What?
That function of the
Yes, I
flash?
have the ability to do a hybrid drive, it is in there.
Okay.
It's all laid out in there. If you did about, provided time, I'm gonna have an article on how to forge on numbers.
So it must do that functionality as part of the volume group?
You added as an additional physical volume to tell the parameters of it. I did it some time ago, I still go back.
Okay, so it must have some special significance to it, to the
It's
rest
able
of
to
it.
figure out, I don't know if it actually like has some sort of heartbeat to figure out what's faster than that or even
Huh.
towing, but I did it some time ago. I did, it just added as an extension to it, but you had to pull it out and do something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
This ability picture on 100 drive was kind of, it was like, oh man, I got these big honking 4 terabyte drives. I got some small SSD to give performance improvement. That would be nice. So I'm sure that I can do the XFS thing.
Well, we know that, I can tell you that topology from a SAN perspective absolutely works. But
Yeah.
I guess I'd be curious how we benchmarked it, if it actually works.
so from a data recovery standpoint, when you're trying to mount a disk out of a system that was LVM,
Yes.
you can use VG change to scan for disks,
Yes.
And then mount.
PV scan.
PV scan, okay.
So you use PV scan, it will scan, it'll scan not only MBRs, you don't see them here, but if you did a full volume, it's going to scan the MBR, but it'll also scan the partition table on each individual drive to try and figure out if there's a physical volume on that partition or not. Now, if I had to take a drive that was, say, out of a different volume group and try to extract data from it, you have to.
If it's not spanned across multiple physical drives, you have better luck with it.
Exactly. So you would do a PV scan, and if it found it, then you can do a VG change to make it active, and then VG import, I think is what it's called. So VG import will let you take a foreign or an alien volume group and import it in your own.
I've done that with like using the Cent or Red Hat Rescue CD to get data off systems.
To reassemble the volume group.
Yeah, and then pull it all off rsync or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not a great picnic, but.
Which is why you should always have hardware ready.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
Instead of VG display, I'm using a VGS, because it's a short display. VGS.
Yeah, that's the same.
just shortcutting on the.
It's the same. That's,
Because I'm just trying to see if I got how much room I got left before I expand it.
as opposed to VG display.
Yeah, because, I don't know, just,
So does it scroll off the screen?
this is,
V free. It doesn't show PEs, but
V3 would be the, if you could grow, is that what you're saying? That's, obviously, that's the volume size. This is how.
V3 would be what 3D size
Got it.
is, whatever. Just tell me I got 4K left or something like that.
I ran into another command. It's LV display is how I normally do it, but there's LVS.
short to the point.
Yeah. So LVS and what was the other one? VGS.
Is there PGS?
Probably PVS. You're so smart.
Format LVM2. Should look up the man page for the attributes. Interesting.
All right, gentlemen, that's, no other advanced questions?
One other question.
Good try.
He doesn't show up these often. It's maybe one good show.
20 questions?
How would you compare and contrast LVM to better FS, which is the future in well
To what?
better FS.
BTRFS.
Or better.
I can't, not because I'm not very familiar.
Are you going to expound on
Can you expand on what BTRF is?
Yeah. Better FS is all, it's the alpha, it's the omega. This snapshot. If you try the last couple versions of SUSEC, they have it built into it. So if you actually, every time you upgrade your system, it takes a snapshot of the system transparently behind the scenes for you. You can roll back a read-only copy of it if you need to with that state. It is a full file system, combines this with ext4, with RAID, with all that. It has tremendous kind of capability to start combining things like Docker and all that. It does copy and write quite well.
It's like ZFS linked.
Yes.
Sounds like a presentation.
It sounds like a great presentation.
I have two more slides this year, I've already got topics.
Okay.
Tremendous topics.
Nobody does topics like I do.
He's got it.
There are quite a few, to that point, there's quite a few other esoteric things you can do with LVM too. One of them that I ran across and I've never used or seen in production is you can actually create RAID with LVM. Right, so you can have multiple physical volumes and say, I want these two physical volumes need to be RAID 1, and that's at the LVM layer rather than the RAID layer. You never use it.
And that's similar to that DB or DB, that binary disk copy thing. Oh God, that's so long ago. I don't remember.
DD?
No. It was over a network to maintain physical.
DRBD.
Yeah. Okay.
DRBD. So DRBD is a block level synchronization application that takes one block device on one system and replicates it to another block device somewhere else across the network. DRBD.
You have a question?
Yeah, does the snapshot feature have any compression options, and can it be saved over network instead of having to do it on the disk on the machine?
It's got to be local. Great question. Mike. It's got to be local, and there really isn't any compression. So you have to, again, size it according to how much change you expect to have.
Because it's going to maintain the changes from the snapshot. And always, so like if you make a snapshot and you leave it there for a week, you could consume of changes over time, which could run out.
Was it? Oh, yeah.
I still use backup PC for backing up lens boxes. I don't know about you guys.
Wow. I haven't heard that one in a long time.
It's hard and real thing.
There you go. Right. Wow.
At my old job, I would tar everything up, and then I would use FTP to transfer it to the mainframe and use tape management. And it was crazy good how well it worked.
I use backup PC to manage the pool space, and I use rsync over SSH to get the data there. Does that kind of answer your question, or did you have maybe a different, maybe put it in a scenario? I could probably come up with a good solution for it.
No, I just got a few different computers, and I try and keep everything rsync together, and I probably need to work on automating that sort of that setup that I got.
rsync-ESSH works great.
I've had to do bandwidth limiting on mine.
Have you?
Yeah.
That's never good.
Well, the connectivity to the site to bring it down shares the bandwidth with all the web traffic.
Uh-huh.
So you got to pull it back so that your visitors aren't destroyed.
Push it to a different cloud, man. Push it to somewhere else.
You know how that works.
Amazon gives you terabytes for free. Push it there.
Actually, our phone.
They never go down.
Our clone?
What's that?
They never go
It's ours.
down.
Never go down.
You can actually.
You're the one, was it yesterday or day before?
Last
Human
Tuesday.
error. Whoops.
Typo.
You can engineer so much.
Well,
It's no single points of
I-
failure, but you cannot engineer around human.
I'm
error.
sure their script is a lot better now because they said they were making changes to the script so that the index servers wouldn't go down. So a lot of that was waiting for their.
Hands in it, so it takes a little.
Oh, okay. Sleep, yeah. Sleep for 30 minutes.
Like,
Make sure nobody's messed up and then go continue.
Oh, I feel sorry for
While
that.
not fucked up, sleep 10.
Is there any Linux news recently? Any new stuff that I haven't? Me too. We usually sometimes just cover recent news items.
I've been too busy getting angry at politics to pay attention to what.
You know, you will live a better life if you just ignore a lot of news. I know you can't ignore all of it, but
I can't, I will tell you, I can't believe these versions, by the way.
Yeah.
I looked at one at Ubuntu server I was managing the other day, it had 4.5 and 4. What happened to 3? What happened to 2.8?
it didn't stop at 3.6, didn't it?
0.99.
No, 310 is.
310?
the latest in the previous series. You do a default install CentOS or Red Hat, that's where.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That's
really?
right.
And nobody's stuck there for the next decade, because they don't do anything different with it.
That's good, that's the reason for that distribution, stability,
Yeah, a decade of it.
decade of stability. All right, gentlemen. Oh, go ahead.
So, what's the best way to get, human, like, cluster or something like that, to get a shared drive with huge data like this fast?
I personally, I tend to stick with a system with a bunch of disks that's attached and share it via NFS. That just seems to be the default go-to, rather than worry about Buster FS or any other object-oriented file system.
You could throw OpenFiler in front of a bunch of disks too.
Yeah.
Can you get
Yeah.
iSCSI and
Open
NFS?
filer or ZFS at least,
Yeah.
something like that.
Well, this is, when she's at 24 discs in them each, but that's together.
And you're looking for a way to share all of that?
I just wondered, yeah.
OpenStack, oh, yeah.
I don't have a good solution for that, other than buy a SAN.
Yeah.
OpenStack storage would be nice.
eBay. Get some SAN switching
And
and
Infinidat's got a pretty good system.
find some InfiniBand adapters. And
Yeah,
Infinidat is the company who's using commodity hardware, whatever, kind of like the rack. Pretty affordable with a lot of redundancy.
sure. See, I would just, if you were to ask me to build something that had a petabyte of data in a rack using least amount of money as possible, I did eBay and looked for HP and all the
enterprise.
all of the drawers that people are getting rid of off of lease, right? All the NSA, the olders were NSA 70s, but that would be like the D2700 drawers with multiple controllers and just JDK them all with SAS, right? So you're going to have a dual domain SAS scenario and then export it somewhere else. That's how I would do it. It's a possible perspective. Now I'm an HP bigot, so obviously you could do similar scenarios with Dells or IBMs, but I know the HP solution works really good, and it's a SAS 3 gig back. Right? So you could definitely saturate at least 210 with that. Really, the parameters and performance characteristics Right. Now, I've done a little bit of research from Google, and
Alien.
Of course they are, they're
technology.
Google. They have that kind of money.
They got, yeah, they got a few more servers than that.
that's what I would do. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Who is doing April?